Welcome back. Joining me in studio today is Rupert Schiessl. Now, he is the Chief Strategy and AI Officer at Bamboo Rose, and today he's going to talk to Joannes and me about rethinking product lifecycle management in the age of AI. Now, before we get to that, you at this point know the drill. Subscribe to our Lokad TV channel here on YouTube and consider following us on LinkedIn. We recently passed 25,000 followers, and I'd quite like to make that 30,000 as soon as possible. In all seriousness, we're trying to build a community. Your support matters to us. And with that out of the way, I give you today's conversation with Rupert Schiessl. Well, first question. In my introduction, I introduced you as the Chief Strategy and AI Officer at Bamboo Rose. So my first question, who is Bamboo Rose and what do you do there?
Yeah, Bamboo Rose is a software vendor. We are selling a solution which is called Total PLM, and which is actually helps our customers, which are mainly retailers, manage the whole life cycle of the products from planning and design to distribution. So that's what Bamboo Rose has been doing for 25 years now. We're doing that for big brands like American Eagle, Urban Outfitters, Woolworth, Walmart, etc. And my job within Bamboo Rose is to bring, in a very large sense, bring AI into this whole stuff, because as we will discuss in a few minutes, AI is transforming a lot what PLM vendors are doing. But more generally, what software and software as a service companies are doing. And so there are a lot of opportunities to make the solutions better for our customers, and with AI, with Gen AI, with agents. And that's my job to bring the existing stack, the whole knowledge and the intelligence which is packaged into our solution together with AI, and make our software AI usable.
Thank you. And you mentioned specifically retail. I'm just curious, in your own words, when you're selling the concept of product lifecycle management, what are the problems that people are trying to solve, or how do you explain to them what the problems are exactly?
Yeah. Like when it comes to product lifecycle management, as the name says, you're managing the whole life cycle of a product from its design, its creation, and even before, should I create a product, to the distribution point, or even the recycling, or the point where products becomes waste. So there are a lot of different things happening during this whole cycles. A lot of people working together, a lot of customers, vendors, suppliers coming together, and our software actually has the mission to coordinate all this. And especially when it comes to big companies that have a lot of products, tens of thousands of products. For companies like Walmart, hundreds of thousands of products. You can't do that manually or with an Excel sheet. So you have to create processes, organize these processes, create access rights, bring all these people together, the designers with the product developers, with the sourcing analysts, and so on, the supply chain managers, in order to make them work together on this complex process in a coordinated and collaborative way.
Thank you. Joannes, would you add anything to the definition of the problem statement of PLM and retail?
Yeah, I mean, I think for retail, it makes a lot of sense to present it that way. PLM is a huge market, and obviously, if you're looking at, depending on the vertical, it can mean very different things. For example, let's say aerospace, you would have the challenge would be every single product is potentially a terabyte of information, with thousands of experiments that have been done to prove that the thing is secure in every flight condition possible. All the records that you have from all the experiments, all the proof, even simulation that you've done in computers to again prove that your design is safe, sound, compliant, and everything. And the thing would be extremely recursive, because you would have a module that has a list of sub-modules that have sub-modules, and each one of them have compliance, proof, engineering, right?
Yeah.
And those things are extremely long-lived for decades. So that's an extreme of the cycle where it's like incredibly, you have a product that has incredible depth, but companies dealing with that, they don't necessarily have that many products to manage. And I think at the other end of the spectrum, you have a challenge that is very different, where the knowledge is relatively thin of what you know by products. It's, for example, a retailer, even Walmart. I very much doubt that for most products, they have, more than a few dozens of pages of worth of documentation. I mean, maybe some media assets, but I would say overall it's going to be relatively shallow, but tenth of thousands of products. He keeps rotating. So it's the challenge is not so much that you have a product with an immensely complex life cycle spanning over decades and hundreds of steps and whatnot, but at the other end of the spectrum, you have those tens of thousands of products that are rotating quite quickly, and you want to keep also things extremely agile, which complicates things, such as the same product can be sourced from, let's say, half a dozen companies. You may sometimes want to source a new supplier, ensure continuity, even if you keep the product, source from somebody else. I mean, there are so many other angles that needs to be factored in. So my take on PLM is that it's very much vertical dependent, and the challenge for retail is really managing the assortment complexity, which is through the roof, because we are talking Walmart is probably clearly in the hundreds of thousands of products if we look at their whole portfolio.
Yeah, definitely. I very much agree on the vertical. So that's really our approach within Vermorel. So we are very much fashion, like retail focused, but very strong on fashion. More stronger and stronger on food. There are a lot of ingredients and legal constraints are coming in, and then general merchandise, and especially within fashion. Like, it's not aeronautics, but the product can get quite complex because you have different sizes, you have different components, and even like more complex products like in apparel, shoes or sports products can get quite complex and require collaborative design and all these different steps that we manage within our software.
Well, then my question is, before we get into how AI is disrupting PLM, historically, how have companies in retail managed the problems that you just described? Yep. So, and what worked with that approach, and what was not so great about that approach?
Yeah, I mean, historically, like the native and intuitive reaction to a complex process is to break it down in mini processes. So that's, or mini silos, what has become silos afterwards. And that's what has happened within PLM over the last 20, 30 years. So within PLM, you will have planning, you will have design, and you have develops, source, purchase orders, logistics, and so on. And that's typically how most of the software vendors on the PLM market are working today. So they have their different modules, and their customers can buy one or the other, and these modules work together, and different teams are using the models. And what has worked with that is that this is a very good approach for complex processes, because you have the process predefined, and once the product is set up, the solution is set up, sometimes in very long setup cycles, deployment projects. Once it's set up, it works very well to reproduce the process that it has been set up for. Now, what has happened during the last years, especially the supply chain world very well, with more recently with tariffs, but before with COVID, with supply chain disruptions and so on, is that the processes that the products, the solutions, the software were designed for are changing, are not these processes anymore, and they are changing very often, very fast. And the problem with siloed and predefined products is that they are difficult to adapt, or they may become obsolete because they have been designed for a product or process or part of processes that are not here anymore. And this is probably one of the best opportunities, or at least that's the opportunity that we are seeing within Vermorel, is bringing AI in as one of the solutions that can help to adapt these processes faster and get our customers make disrupt the silos, make the different elements speak to each other, share information upstreams, share information downstream, and make the processes more flexible.
Thank you. Joannes, you're a huge fan of silos in supply chain, right? Huge fan.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is that silos define pretty much the boundaries of what you can optimize. You know, it's just when you have silos, unfortunately, it means that there are entire classes of optimization or pathways or whatever that are just not even open to you. So obviously, if you want to keep things manageable with a high degree of division of labor, so you want to spread the workload across dozens of people, you kind of need those silos, because the alternative is everybody speak to everybody, and that do not scale beyond probably something like a team of 5, maybe a team of 10. But so I can see the appeal, but indeed I see at least for software vendors, I see the opportunity to really rethink with more modern analytical technologies what can be done in terms of, I would say, of support for decision automation, or just plain automations, because also many of those steps were just extremely mundane, but you needed a lot of people just to do that because they were very time consuming. So even if it was like not super strategic, or if there was not like a massive amount of value add by the people, you still had to do that, and there was like no way to automate. And what do I mean by that? I mean, for example, everything that involved until very recently text, you know, even if it's like pick a label that would fit nicely within 80 characters, because that's like the printing limit for the product, so that you can have, you know, tags in stores, and you have to carefully pick exactly how you're going to fit a name for your products within those 40 characters. It's not like massive value add, but until very recently, you had no alternative but to have someone who just product by product pick very carefully a label that would fit this 80 character limit. You could not just truncate something that was too long, because you would very frequently lose the important part. So that was the sort of things where, okay, you were burning hundreds of man-hour per year, if not thousands, to solve a fairly, you know, mundane problem. And now all of that is gone, and people can actually focus on the more challenging, the more strategic sort of problems.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. We have a very similar use case with our customers currently, which is around tariffs, where like selecting the right, what we call HTS number in the US. Many of our customers are US based. In order, that's the number, the tariff number that you have to use in order to import a product into the US. That's the universal global system, which is still existing for the moment. And they have to select the right number based on the product characteristics, mainly based on the product characteristics, and they have some flexibility, and in order to choose a better duty rate when there is like different options possible. And that up to today was a fully manual process. It's still a fully manual process, and now AI comes in and can read the most recent regulations, and it can understand what tariff numbers are conceived for, and can bring this together, and like there is a full process, very basic process that is completely replaced thanks to Gen AI, which was not possible before.
Joannes, any further comment? Or
yeah, that's called, by the way, a zero-shot classification. That's a technical term of this task, but it's kind of fancy. It means that when you're building a machine learning classifier without any prior example. So here you would just have specification of the load that is probably compiled and wrapped to be part of the prompt, and then a reasonable pre-processing that would markdownify PDF and whatever source that you have about the products. And then you can have your classifier, which is an LLM that operate without, you know, any specific training. And that's very interesting. That the concept of zero shot is very interesting with Gen AI, is the idea that you can suddenly build classifier without collecting a database of example first, which was exactly what was done even 5 years ago. 5 years ago, to do that, people would have said, oh, no problem. We are going to use a random forest. First, start by manually classifying, let's say, 1,000 examples, and then we are going to use this classifier to classify the rest. But those 1,000 examples were very costly, slow, and the beauty with GenAI is that you can have those zero-shot classification, which is literally spell out the rules and the logic, and then which can be kind of fuzzy and judgmental to some extent, and then have like a halfway decent classifier that just work without any prior data. And that is unlocking so many use cases that prior would have been non-economically viable. I mean, you could build your database of example for 1,000 illustrations, for 1,000 products for tariff, but tariff evolved rapidly. So very quickly it would have devolved into let's do it manually anyway. That's going to be faster. So yes, absolutely.
Well, I'm curious because the example of tariffs is, I think it's easy for people to grasp because it's immediate, and then they see the news, they know that it's happening. It's a very graspable or comprehensible problem. That said, the underlying logic that we're talking about here, introducing AI into the workflow, that exists independent of an enormous macro event like tariffs. Again, if you're talking about maximizing the return on an investment for a decision, that's true in a world with fluctuating tariffs and in a world without it. So I'm just curious, Rupert, to you first. How do you explain the value proposition of bringing AI into PLM just in general?
Tariffs is a very good example because I think there are different levels of like we can separate it probably in two classes. One is like the example that we have just used about tariffs is just we keep the same process, but as Joannes explained, we can adapt the data or work more easily without collecting data sources because we have these sort of pre-trained models that are able to understand the data sources like we humans are doing. Like for the tariff use case, we just push them the PDF with the 4,000 pages of tariff regulation. If it changes every day, just upload it and the model can read the new version of it, which no human being would be capable of doing. So that's one thing which is really transformative for our business, not only for tariffs, but there are so many unstructured data, like PDFs, images, designs circulating that are updated all the time. Designs when our designers, like the designers of our customers, are building an Adobe Illustrator SVG file, and they change it like because they think the buttons on the shoulders should be moved a little bit to the left. It creates a new version of the product which has to be seen, reviewed by the product developer, for example. There are a lot of PDFs coming in from suppliers when they have to answer the RFPs, the RFIs, and they don't want to fill out the forms. They want to send the information that is already available. They want to send their catalog. They want to send the brochures, and the up to today sourcing managers have to go through these data sources and review all this. So that's now replaceable by Gen AI. So that's one big step. And the second way where AI is transforming our business and transforming the way our customers are using our software is the organization of like the way how processes and decisions are made within the software. Now we are able to adapt within the different silos, within the different modules to what happened before. Like let's say you have one supplier which has gone bankrupt or which is not able to deliver anymore. In this case, you have to adapt the plan or your assortment because you're not able to deliver the product anymore. You have to adapt the design that you are maybe doing because, like, let's say it's a button supplier or it's a supplier of a specific material that you need to for this product. Maybe you have to redesign it. And this whole process was done, took a lot of time, and maybe it just wasn't done in the fashion industry because the life cycle of a product is too short. So it doesn't, you don't readapt the whole process or whole upstream process. And now that is possible with AI. So you can, as you are monitoring all the time what's happening within the database, and you have processes in place that can adapt to what's happening, you can automatically replan, recreate an assortment, change the pricing, change the designs, and this whole process gets sort of interconnected and dynamic.
Well, Joannes, the supply chain scientists at Lokad do a lot of similar things, no?
Yeah, I mean, here LLMs are not necessarily super great to do any kind of, I would say, to conduct any kind of super structured activity. You know, if, for example, if you want to go through a list of 10,000 products, you need a loop, and it's going to be slow with an LLM. And LLMs are good, again, whenever text is involved. When there is, for example, if you want to do a pricing optimization, LLM in itself is not necessarily super suitable. It is suitable in the sense that it can help you to write the code for a pricing strategy. That is true. But in itself, you can't just put characteristic and say, give me the price. It's not a very good tool for that. But what I see here is that I also see something which is kind of interesting in the sort of emergent processes where you ask, company wants to send an RFP, and please people just answer according to my questions, and that the supplier would prefer to just send their catalog so that it's easier, for both parties. The interesting thing is that what I see down the road is agent to agent, and Google just released a protocol specification agent to agent a few weeks ago. It's quite interesting that the idea that just like companies exposed a website, they could publicly expose an agent. And the thing that you would feed to this agent would be whatever you're willing to share with the greater world. So if you are a supplier, you provide some stuff, you would have all your catalog being readily available, and this agent could be queried by your clients to get this information, and you would just maintain the database feeding this agent, and then on the other hand, your clients could just query these clients. It's like designed for other agents and their consumption, which would remove the problem of going through PDF and going through a lot of, I would say, medium that is not like super suited again for LLM processing. Whenever you have PDF, you would have to convert it, for example, to Markdown or text first before processing the document. So that just removes layers of hurdles.
Yeah, that's definitely a very interesting thing. This like compliance of different agent networks of customers and suppliers, for example. And what's very related to that, and that's like just starting, but we're already getting the questions about this, is let's say I'm the supplier and I share my data with you, customer. How can I make sure that you won't take all the information from my database and you just take what I want you to share with? And that will be become one of the most important issues during the next years. So how can we control what the agents can share? How can we make sure they are not making any errors? Because agents will speak to agents. That's for sure. That's the world we are moving to. But how can we control which data is going out, and especially when it's going out of the company? And there will be like huge opportunities and also huge challenges and probably huge incidents happening on these fields.
Hopefully not involving us, either of our companies.
Yeah, I'm relatively confident. There are so many IT problems right now. Ransomware, and would be one of them. It's much more critical and much more dire. Now, what I see is, and also I believe that there is this vision I would say for companies, data is not nearly as critical as people think they are. It's unless if you are ASML and you have absolutely super advanced physical processes that nobody on Earth can even get close to replicate, or that would be same for SpaceX and their rocket engines, then yes, you have extremely critical, sensitive assets. But 99% of the companies who operate out there, they have very, very little data that would be critical. And the data that is kind of critical are actually more like liabilities and assets. For example, if you are a retailer, you probably, to a large extent, don't want to have personal information of your clients, as little as possible. It's a liability, it's not an asset. It's something, if you leak it, it's going to be a major press problem. It's not fundamentally going to really boost your business. So that's why I see data. Let's take a retailer. Their product catalog, anybody can scrap it from their e-commerce, so it's not like super secret, and there is very little there. It doesn't mean that there is no value in having that internally cleanly organized. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that if this data is shared a little bit too much with peers, it's I do not see that as being the end of the world. But data that you don't want to share, which would be, for example, personal data from your clients, well, it's a liability. And for example, at Lokad, what we do is that we for almost all our clients, we make sure that we have no personal data whatsoever.
Yeah, that's true.
So you see, because the way we see it is it's just a liability. So even in the event where Lokad would be breached, that can happen. Never happened yet, but could happen. Then the idea is that we have only information that ultimately would be, I would say, at least it would not be damaging from a PR point of view, because it's
commercial information.
It's just commercial information, exactly. List of products, list of flows, stock levels. I mean, yes, as a company, you don't want your stock levels to be shared with your competitors, but ultimately, if your stock levels were published on Reddit, it would not be the end of the world for your company.
Well, it might not be the end of the world, but in the end of software, as we know it, that LinkedIn article that you wrote, Rupert, what a transition. That article that you wrote, Rupert, thank you. You wrote that AI kills the logic layer. So for anyone who didn't see that, we'll post the link to that article under this video. It was very good, and that's what prompted the discussion. But in that, again, you advanced a very specific argument. What was the key argument you were advancing? And specifically, how does AI kill the logic layer of PLM?
Yeah, the title may be a bit provocative, which is necessary.
That's good. We like that here.
But actually, that's probably what's happening. What has started. Like us software vendors, I've been in the software industry for 17 years now, and as a software vendor, the thing where we are the most proud of is the logic and the business logic that we are building with our software. The pride was always to be to reproduce business processes of our customers in a very elegant and generic way, so that you can resolve a lot of problems with a minimum of code. So that's more or less what software vendors were doing. And on top of that, you have a user interface, which is beautifully designed, that you can interact easily with this logic. And on the bottom, the third layer on the bottom of the stack is data, and which also has to reflect, which has to be interconnected in a way that it reflects the processes and the logic that is going on and the business process of the customers that are using the software. So that was the traditional way of building software. Now what's happening is that, as Joannes said a few minutes ago, is now LLMs are coming in, and they are not able to produce pricing algorithms or optimization algorithms or forecasting algorithms, because those are other algorithms that are mathematically optimized, but they are able to produce code, and they're able to produce or describe logical flows. And so what's happening is that these algorithms are now coming in and are able to adapt the logic and the processes that have been predefined by software vendors in a more dynamic and interactive way and context-aware way. So based on what the current economic environment is, or which supplier is responding or which user is using the software, the process might not be the same and can be adapted dynamically by the LLM, without having a programmer writing and anticipating all the processes that are happening. And that's really a major change for us software vendors. And the second thing, it also impacts the user interface, because user interfaces have been designed in a quite solid and stable way. Same as for logic, in order to anticipate all the different cases that can happen or respond to different user requirements. Designers are not seeing the same thing as finance guys. And now you can have, with these code writing agents or these logic agents or LLMs, these Gen AI algorithms, you can generate your user interface depending on what comes out of the database, what's the process, and who is the person in front of me. So when you put all this together, logic is sort of disappearing, user interfaces are disappearing. The only thing that remains is data and the business logic that is in the data, and which means that actually that's the value of this data layer is increasing. So we have to, like we software vendors have to improve the ways we protected this data, but also create what we call metadata layers that explain our data in order to let the LLMs understand what's happening in the data and make it accessible to agents, to internal agents, but also to agents that coming from other companies, from our customers, from the suppliers, in order to let them use this data stack.
Joannes?
I mean, what I see is that if you look at more broadly at systems of records, so that there were all those enterprise software which were primarily designed to, have like an electronic counterpart of something in your company. That can be list of your products and their life cycles. That can be your stock levels. That can be orders from your customers or suppliers or whatever.
An ERP, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, ERP is just one example of those, systems of records. They are like
WMS,
tons.
etc.
And my take is that when it comes to logic, the vast majority of the logic exists only to support the division of labor. So it's just because you want to be able to spread the workload across many people, and thus you need tons of stuff to support that.
Yep.
But the reality is that if you manage somehow to automate whenever you manage to automate anything, then suddenly you don't have to manage this division of labor. Suddenly it's like, okay, it's done. So I don't need to have layers of user interfaces and logic and workflows and whatnot for something that has just been automated. And so you realize that, and my take is that in many pieces of enterprise software, division of labor is way beyond 90% of the logic. It is literally pretty much the entire challenge, because again, if you want to spread that across dozens, hundreds of people, that division of labor becomes the most complicated thing. It's so you have to think, okay, I need to create stages. Then for every stage, I will need to have a series of workflows. Then for every workflow, I will need to be able to have the management to supervise what is being done. So I want to have KPIs and I want to have call to actions and etc. So, okay, so you have like plenty of things where if you just realize, okay, I am able to automate, do I need to have those granularity of stages with workflows, with KPIs, boom, 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 all of that disappear. Maybe you can, collapse all of that into just a technical indicator that says whether your automation is running, in good conditions, green or not, and that's kind of it. Just think of, if you want to have an example of, I think the best way to understand the effect of automation is a long time ago in the 90s, I observed the very first anti-spam software for corporate. They were extremely complex, tons of rules, tons of supervisions, hundreds of parameters. You could tweak so many things. That was complicated pieces of products. Nowadays, what happens with your anti-spam? The answer is nothing. It just exists. It
Yeah.
works. You don't care. It's just there. Is there a user interface? Well, you have a folder called spam folder that you never look at, and that's it. So you see, and so I very much agree that that logic disappear, but the way I see that, it's mostly by unlocking automations for things that were not possible. And now that you have automation, you realize that you don't need workflows, you don't need KPIs, you don't need stages and all of that. And so tons of logic really is gone. And I think that's the primary effect. And yes, on top of that, and with LLMs, you can auto-compose, SQL queries to produce reports and whatnot. And that may save you some logic. But my take is that it's going to be small compared to just remove all the artifacts that were only there to cope with the fact that you had a lot of people in the first place.
Yeah.
I did not even mention if you have a lot of people, you will need some people with administrative rights, super administrative rights. Some people will have managers. Some people can see everything. Some people can only see a small scope. I mean, again, you end up with so many features that enterprise software vendors like ourselves love to introduce. But again, all of that is catering to the fact that you have a lot of people. If you just remove the need to have a lot of people, then most of the usefulness of those features are also gone.
Yeah. And what's also changing is that the whole process has become more input oriented. So instead of setting up the whole process and the way that workflows are set up and the way you share the rights between all the responsibilities between different users, you just set the boundaries, you set the borders, the limits, the constraints, and you give an objective of what has to happen. And then these, like the new type of software that is being built is auto-organizing, such as a human organization will do. You will have an orchestrator, and then you will have different teams that are working together because you have told them that they have to work together, and that's necessary also in human organization. You have to set up rules and hierarchies, and that's really the main movement that's happening, and that's changing the way that we software vendors have to work, because we have to build software that allows our customers to set up the rules, set up the organizations for these automation tools instead of building the whole processes.
Again, please correct me if I'm wrong, but even in the article, The End of Software, as we know it, you talked about that AI will, new rules or goal-oriented procedures will emerge, and that's the difference, that the AI basically will just teach itself. Could you explain a little bit more there?
Yeah, that's basically what I was trying to resume. That instead of setting up and anticipating everything, every step of process, you will more set up an organization of different agents working together, describing what the networks would like, what we call agents, these LLM based
AI agents,
AI tools. How will they work together? Who can, which agent can talk to which agent? What are the boundaries of what they can do? What are the tools, the software tools they can access to? Are they just internal? What are their user rights? What the data they can? What's the part of the data they can access? And once this whole thing is set up, you can let them sort of freely act on, for the moment, still very basic tasks, but they will get more and more complex, and let them work together in order to resolve the tasks or resolve the objectives that you have set up at the beginning.
Well, to come back to something that was mentioned at the beginning, again, we're now contrasting the current vision of PLM with what you described before, which was a lot of silos, a lot of people-centric silos. How do you break those silos and get closer to what you just described? Because again, those are worlds apart, what you just described. Nothing wrong with either one, but they are radically different. So how do you approach that rebuild or that change?
Yeah, that's at Bamboo Rose. That's what we are trying to bring in. So we have these 6 elements within Bamboo Rose, which are the 6 silos from planning to distribution. And on top of this, we are bringing what we call decision intelligence. We could call it AI or whatever. That's basically the way we are making decisions that are upstream and downstream compatible around and collaboratively made around across these different silos. And what we are doing within these silos is that we are what we are doing within decision intelligence is that we allow our customers to set up the rules, the objectives that they want to fix, and then the different processes run automatically. And for the moment, we are doing that on very specific tasks, like we talked about. Finding the right tariff number. Before, that was a process with a few steps integrated. Now we just say, I want to find the right tariff number for this product, and the agent, like the assistant or the AI, will run through the different parts, fetch the information of the process, fetch the information that is necessary, fetch the most recent legal information that is necessary, run the classifier that will put all this together, and then come back with validate the information and explain it, and then come back with a result to the user and just populate the right tariff number into the field for the user and provide the explanation. But that can move forward to more complex processes, like what we call tech pack creation. That's a very important part of PLM. So what Joannes mentioned before, it's technically describing the bill of materials, the point of measurements when it comes to fashion and apparel, in order to, that's sometimes 50, 100 pages for one single product, describe all the compliance, all the legal constraints around the product, if you want to have organic cotton or not, all these things, for all the different sizes when it comes to clothes, and then you send that to a supplier. And that's a very long process today when you our customers start, like they want to build a new pullover, they either can make a copy from a similar product from the last collection and adapt it somehow, but if they want to, that already takes some time, even if you make a very similar product to what already existed in the past. Or you can, if you want to create a new product, a new design, but in this case, you have to start from scratch in some cases, or almost from scratch. And that's a very time-consuming process. You have a lot of things to fill out, like all these 500 pages, 50 to 100 pages of technical information. It has to be produced. And that's typically what an agent network can do. It can go into recent products. And some of our customers have hundreds and thousands of articles in the database that they have done within the 20 years they are working with us. Can find similar product information, can fetch the most recent legal constraints around organic cotton and whatever, and bring all this together in order to write the tech pack. And that's automation of a complex process, done fully or almost fully automatically by an agent network, by AI. And at the end, like our vision or the ideal, the North Star of our company, or at least what we're doing with AI, is at the end of the day, what the customer wants is bringing products to market and bringing them to the distribution centers. And what's happening between all these different steps in between, it's just work that has to be done, but it's actually work that all of our customers would be able to delegate to an AI or someone if an AI was able to do it. So like the end vision of PLM is having saying generate the collection for next year and bring it to the market, and then like it will sort of somehow work in an automated way. And probably there will be companies and startups coming in trying to build these types of stuff. Like a lot of people are speaking about the unicorn, the one employee unicorn. Maybe fashion will be one of these, or like fashion distribution can be one of these. I don't know.
Thank you. Joannes, any thoughts?
In terms of applicability of technology of of those AI technologies for the problem that we just described, I think we have to really distinguish between the problem of, for example, composing an assortment of what should be, my garments, what should be the size range, the colors, the patterns, the style, and everything, which is a problem that is where LLMs are not really well suited to do that. It's you can't really feed a catalog of 20,000 variants into an LLM and expect meaningful results. It's or to balance, the depth of color range across, product types and whatnot. That's not the sort of things where LLMs are going to shine. You need other classes of algorithms.
Yeah.
But the idea is that once you have other types of, I would say, algorithms to produce this sort of high-level description of your ideal assortment, then for every single product, then starts a process of gathering requirements, putting together the documents, and because indeed every single line will have to be sourced with your supplier. And here I can see, so you see, I see automation with different technologies. You would need probably more, I would say, classic optimization or stochastic optimization. Stochastic means just with uncertainty. Optimization for composing the assortment itself, and then once you have stabilized something that is like nicely covering your demand, then to generate the attached documents to all of that. That's where LLMs are really going to shine. But that's, again, LLMs, I think, and generative AI is super good at dealing with non-structured data. I mean, text mostly, a little bit images, but mostly text. And that's where they are going to really shine. But they are not going to shine if it's really about making calculations. Although they can be used for calculation, but then they will be used to generate the code, and then you execute the code.
Exactly.
So you see, it's different sort of layers. So potentially you can think of LLMs to help you write the code, to do this analytical, this analysis of your assortment and rebalance everything. Then again, bring LLM to the party to generate those thousands of pages of documentations across all those many products. That I can totally see models being a huge time saver.
Yeah.
To have like think of it like a very, very smart pre-templating logic where it already adapt all the easy things that could be adapted easily, that would be right out of the box. And then the human would just step in to do some adjustments where the model is just lacking information. Because I see that also as one point is that the LLM does not necessarily has access to all the information, and maybe making all the relevant information available to the model might be even more costly than having a human to step in. So there are various trade-offs here. But clearly to do the bulk of the work, I can see that. And then automate most of the exchange between what the company wants and what the supplier can propose. Here there is, again, massive amount of paperwork back and forth that can be LLM automated, at least so that people are on the same page. Just putting the request and the things that the supplier can offer, just aligning the two. Yes, LLM could really automate most of that as well.
Yeah, thanks for precising that. I think LLMs should be seen as orchestrators for other tools and other algorithms that are already there. And that's, I mean, within Bamboo Rose, for example, or within PLMs, there are already a lot of different algorithms that are here to create a BOM, to analyze or search within a BOM. Again, LLM is not built for that, but it can go to this and like know that these algorithms exist, and say, okay, in this case, I have to use it and use this as a tool and surface the information in order to bring it back and bring it on to the next step of the process.
Well, if I were to start summarizing, across all of these stages of PLM that we've discussed so far, Rupert, where do you see AI, be that LLMs, generative AI, or any form of algorithms, where do you see AI having the most significant impact, like positive impact?
Um, uh, for the moment, we have a huge roadmap.
Yeah.
We have a lot of things to do. There are a lot of different steps in over this whole process. I would rather say that there are three different levels of impact or of like importance of AI over this whole process. There is a first level, which is a sort of and that's not only for PLM, it's for like using AI generally, I would say. The first level is sort of defensive AI. It's just taking a process and automating the same process with AI, making it faster, making it more robust, save time for my employees using this process. So you don't basically change anything within the whole processes in your company. It's just making them faster or more accurate. Or increase the performance. The second level is what can be called extend. So in this case, you move from a defensive way to a more extension level of AI usage. In this case, you use AI to transform your processes, adapt them dynamically, as we have already described, and say maybe in this case we can, as we have AI, we can merge two processes and automate them. We don't have to bring in different people. We can redesign the process in using AI. There's already coming more value coming from that. It's more complex to set up, but there's more value coming from these processes. And the third level is what can be called append. So that's the level where you create something new thanks to AI. It was not possible to do it before on top of your process. That's like was happening in many companies that can potentially invent new products, new offers, new services thanks to AI. It was not possible before. One can immediately think about pharmaceuticals, like their whole transformation and product creation process can now be automated, and which allows them to create, invent new products with Gen AI in much shorter delays, for example. And that's happening same for us. So the way we describe, like within Bamburos, we have a lot of automation features which are in this first level that we have to roll out, where our customers will have immediate time savings and cost savings thanks to AI. We have processes that can be merged, that can be transformed thanks to AI. I was speaking about tech pack creation, for example. That's one typical process where a lot of people coming in. But we're also speaking about another process that we have rolled out recently is allowing fashion designers have access to cost estimation immediately. Before it was, I make a design, then I send that to a product developer who estimates the cost, send it back to the designer who has to make the changes, send it back to the product developer. Now these processes are connected, and we're recalculating the cost estimation based on the design changes. And then we have, of course, the last level, append, where we can transform the whole way our customers are designing and rolling out products, and maybe give them, thanks to this, the possibility to create new products or better services for their customers.
Thank you, Rupert. How is AI helping Lokad's clients?
I mean, the thing is that Lokad, we have a slightly different take, because the full robotization of supply chain decisions started more than a decade ago for us. And most of it do not involve, I would say, Gen AI at all. As far since Lokad, we do predictive optimization for flow of physical goods. That's what we're doing. So that means deciding when to buy,
where to send,
where to stock it, what to produce, indeed where to dispatch, and then adjusting the prices. All of those decisions are highly quantitative, and they have been at Lokad dependent on numerical recipes for over a decade. So those things were already, I would say, robotized, even if the robotization doesn't use generative AI. You don't need it. Generative AI just make it more easier to maintain the code. It facilitates certain tasks where you want, for example, to clean up the product catalog when people don't have like a very nicely organized PLM and the AI is a little bit a mess. That really help. But so that's interesting for us. Lokad, this journey of full automation just started a long time ago. But yes, with Gen AI now, it's I would say things that comes mostly before and after the quantitative supply chain decisions that can be automated. So what do I mean by before? Let's say, for example, your MOQ that you have from one supplier is kind of out of date. You want to have like an email exchange to have the fresh information. In the past, there was no alternative to have a fairly manual process, or people would have to very literally write emails, or at the very least email templates that can be sent to collect information. And then people who reply are probably not going to reply in a way that is like super clean. With LLMs, that sort of things can be just, completely automated. So it's things that comes, let's say, before the decision-making process, such as collecting one extra piece of information, an MOQ, or after the decision is made. For example, you decide that you want to expedite or try expediting one order that you already passed to a supplier. That means engaging with the supplier and maybe back and forth where the supplier say, yes, we can potentially do that, but there will be an overhead. So you see that the answer is not going to be something like super simple, and it's certainly not going to be a yes/no answer. So that's the sort of things that, again, in terms of post-process can also be automated, even if the core of the decision-making process, which is to identify orders that are good candidates for an attempt at expediting the order, that does not involve Gen AI. It's going to be a very analytical calculation. But then the execution of that can benefit from Gen AI, so that especially when it comes to interact with third parties.
Well, thank you, Rupert. I am mindful of time because we've taken about an hour of it. But just as a closing thought, obviously this has been quite a technical discussion. It's been pitched at a level I think most people can follow, certainly. But for non-technical people, how do you present the value proposition of introducing AI into a PLM workflow so that absolutely 100% of listeners can fully grasp the value that you're describing here, which is enormous?
Yeah. Good question. I would say for our customers, a lot of like the PLM process is very often time consuming,
exactly,
painful on different steps, not optimal. Our customers are losing opportunities because they have like, as we already discussed, some of the suppliers are not there anymore, so we just can't ship the products anymore. Like there are a lot of pain points across this whole product journey. AI won't resolve everything tomorrow.
Yes.
But it's a huge opportunity to fix one by one all these different pain points, generate more accuracy, generate better product availability, generate better product quality, better product suppliance, generate a better relationship with their suppliers, because our customers, the retailers, will be less time demanding to their suppliers. So a lot of benefits for all the parties that are participating to this whole process over the whole chain.
And more quickly than before as well, of course.
Yeah, everything will run more smoothly. It will take time. Our job as a software vendor is bring these to our customers, bring this technology to our customers within the stack that they are already knowing, which describes the way that process lifecycle should be managed. And our customers will benefit from cost savings, time saving, and better product quality that they can build with our software.
Thank you. And Joannes, before we close, anything to add?
No, I think it's certainly one of the many areas. My prediction is that AI will probably is coming for probably 90% of the back office white collar workers, and I believe that many mundane operation in PLM will be automated away in the next decade. Again, if any tasks that do not, do not bring a significant value add, which is mostly shuffling or reshuffling information from a format to another. And that's the sort of things that will be automated, I think, in the coming decades. So that will be a major transformation, because it's for those companies, we are talking of hordes of white collars that are just going to be automated away.
Just put one for today.
Yes, exactly.
Well, gentlemen, I don't have any more questions. Rupert, thank you very much for your time and for joining us in the studio.
For the conversation.
And to the rest of you, I say, get back to work.